All right. So today I've got one of the sharpest minds in the marketing game joining me. She's been helping people cut through the noise and actually get results. She's seen what works, what doesn't work, and how real estate professionals can stand out without burning themselves out. We're going to break it all down for you today. Val Miller, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. I love it. Glad to be
Of
here.
course, of course, of course. And yeah, mortgage marketing has changed a lot over the years. What would you say is the biggest mindset shift that loan officers need to make to stand out in today's market?
The biggest mindset shift. I would say people try to measure their results too much, or that is too much of a focus for them when they're approaching mortgage marketing. And
Mhm.
when I say that, I don't mean that you shouldn't be measuring results, but I think that when you approach social media, it's almost impossible to say, okay, I'm doing X amount or I'm investing X amount of time into this and I'm getting deals in return. Like it's a very black and white way of looking at it, where I think having a social media presence and just a brand presence in general is really invaluable for a lot of reasons. It can bring you different partnerships. It creates just brand awareness for you so that even if you do go to, let's say, approach a real estate agent, if they've seen you on social media, it's a much warmer conversation than just picking up the phone and calling someone that's never heard your name. So there's so much value to having a presence and being active on the social media side of things. So I think a lot of people try to justify whether they should be marketing or not based on their results, where they should be looking at it more so, hey, what's working for me and what should I keep doing and what's not working and what can I kind of pivot on and change? It really should be just like a constant branch of your business to market yourself. It shouldn't be looked at as optional. So that's what I would say is biggest mindset shift is just having that be a constant and looking to always adjust and pivot where necessary.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So let's stay here for a second. As far as when you mentioned build up your brand awareness, if I had no idea, I'm a loan officer just entering the business, what exactly does that mean?
I think it can mean a lot of things depending on where you want to focus. So for myself, like I do a lot of social media, and that just means your number one, I think a big missed opportunity is adopting other people's audiences. And what I mean by that is, like Charlie, this is a great example. If you go ahead and post this on social media and you're tagging me, I'm then getting in front of your audience. So if you're doing that with other real estate professionals in your market, adding value and creating content for them about maybe their listings, that just gets in front of their entire audience and that creates your brand. So you're just putting yourself out there, and it's another way of communicating what you stand for, why you're valuable, and what you do. So social media is just like another way to translate that, but it shouldn't be inauthentic in any way. Like you should be being yourself on social media. It's just kind of another way to get that out to the masses.
Yeah, I love that because it's the new way of essentially of marketing. You look back however many years ago, people used to market with flyers, people used to market with general things as far as putting out detailed things as possible. But now it's a little bit more personal. Like people want to know what you look like. They want to know what you like to do on the weekends. They want to know, if you have a dog. So I feel like all those little things, and it's easy as, connecting with somebody. Maybe you went to some place that they like and they asked you how was the food and you said, "Oh yeah, the food was great." And then you guys can spark a conversation and then that can lead into business just from that conversation right there. So let's pivot for a minute. As far as on why people, let's say they're on social media, but they're behind the scenes. They don't necessarily post videos, but they are working. What do you think is holding people back as far as from putting themselves out there, from posting videos, posting content?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I see this all the time. So, I've been in the marketing side of things for a few years now and working directly with mortgage advisors. And the number one biggest thing is definitely fear of just getting out of their comfort zone and being on video. Everyone hates it, especially to start out. You're not supposed to love it at first. Like you're
Yeah.
not used to seeing yourself or hearing yourself on video. So that's they don't like to watch back the video and listen to themselves and see themselves. I always tell people if you don't like what you look like or sound like on video, that's what everyone else is experiencing. That's what you look like and what you sound like to everyone else. So they don't even think twice about it. It's not as weird for them to listen to your content. It's more about if you focus on the value that you're bringing people and why you're doing it, that should really be driving the whole strategy behind video. Like video is just a means to communicate value in a different way. So if you come at it from that perspective of just trying to serve people and create value, it becomes a lot less selfish. And you're not just worried about what you look like. You're worried about, I have a message that I want to get out to people. And if I don't, then I'm doing them a disservice, I would say is how you can approach it. And there are different strategies. I think we'll talk about this a little bit, but there are different strategies to kind of get over that fear. But I think that's a little bit of a mindset shift that people need to have going into it, because that's definitely the biggest thing that I see people stopping themselves from getting on video.
The fear aspect. And we can go ahead and jump on that now. So how would you suggest somebody to get over this fear?
I called it like a boot camp for some of the mortgage advisors at our company previously. And it's really starting small. Like I would, and this is so ridiculous, and I'm sure they hated me for it, but I would make them download Snapchat, and I would have them send a Snapchat video to one person every single day. And it could be me. I would like let them add me and say, like, if you want to send it to me, go ahead. But after you record that video and send it, it's gone forever. Like no one will ever see that again. So once they started getting the reps in, then we would move it up a notch and say, okay, for your client conversations, instead of sending one email per day, send a video instead with the same message. So then it's only one person that's seeing that, and you have a very intentional message to give them. So it's a lot easier. You don't have to come up with the content. You already know what you're going to say. And then it's kind of just gradually increasing that. Then it's like, okay, post an Instagram story giving a market update. So that's only going to be there for 24 hours. So not a ton of pressure. People are still going to see it and find value in it, but it's a lower barrier to entry. And then ultimately the biggest thing is like posting reels, posting valuable content that's going to live on your profile forever is kind of the end goal there. But I would say intimidating space of just like posting videos right away, you can kind of like gradually lead up to it. And that's how I've coached people before in the past to get to that point where they're comfortable.
That's great advice right there. Starting small, and those little wins that you do, you know, maybe as you mentioned, posting the Snapchat here and sending it out, you get a little bit more comfortable. Even if you're just sending it to somebody that you know, are already comfortable with, it's still a big deal to talk about something as big as whether, you know, you're updating people on the market, what's kind of going on in real estate. Even that is such a big deal. And it's really, you know, it's all about taking those little action steps forward. And another thing, as far as touching on the fear aspect, I think a lot of people also fear about putting something out that's not good enough. I mean, you see all these creators, and just from the time period of when I first entered the market from 2019 to now, the content has gone is some people make such good videos, you know, talking about, you know, they're on it. And it's kind of like, we have to understand nobody is going to remember our bad posts. You know, they'll remember the good ones, but they're not going to necessarily remember the bad ones. That's something to kind of always think about in the back of our heads as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I always say, like, you're not that important. Like, it sounds bad, but people are not obsessing 100%. Over the videos that you're posting. Like, it really doesn't matter. They're not thinking about you that much. So that it's, you know, maybe not the best way to phrase it, but I think that helps people kind of get over the realization that like it's not that big of a deal.
100%. And another thing I feel like people don't post is because they feel like it's a waste of time. You know, depending on how you look at it, as you kind of touched on earlier, there's no direct way to almost measure like, oh yeah, I'm pulling in this many deals from social media, because sometimes it takes a long time to nurture these deals. So in 2025, if you had 3 things that mortgage professionals or real estate professionals should focus on as far as in their marketing, what would these 3 things be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Number 1, I would say CRM marketing, like getting really dialed in. This is one kind of like big project that we've been working on lately, is making sure our CRM is super dialed, and it's a work in progress. And I think there's always improvements that you can be making, but starting with the low hanging fruit of the people that are already in your environment and just making sure that you're really connected with them and adding value and staying in front of them. That would be one thing. Number 2 is, I think, just video in general. I'm not just going to say social media because maybe that's not your thing, but even just having video in your in-process workflows, I think is really valuable because it lets people get to know you on a deeper level than just an
Mhm.
email. Like can be taken
Yes.
multiple ways. People kind of misinterpret it sometimes. So I just think video in general, I'm a big advocate for. And the last one, which is probably my favorite, would be webinars. So this is
Mm.
still a style of video, but you're being a little more direct and a little more intentional in terms of who you're inviting to it. And this is just it's value adding. And I'll even take it a step further and say it doesn't have to be a webinar, but it could be a video or an in-person class of some sort. So inviting whether it's agents as your audience or consumers, and you're doing more like first-time homebuyer classes, I think those are really valuable because it allows you to reach out to people and have something of value that you're inviting them to, not just reaching out saying, hey, do you want to refinance or buy a home?
Uh-huh.
No one likes to be sold to. So if you're just going to them with something of value, I think there's so much that you can build off of that. So that's probably one of my favorite because I think it just adds a lot of value in a lot of different areas of your business, whether
Mm.
that's outreach to agents, outreach to your consumers to invite them to the event, but then also repurposing that content afterwards and making sure it's on YouTube and it's a resource that people can refer back to. So I think it's something that provides a lift in a lot of different areas, and it can be really dynamic in terms of the topics, who you're inviting. So I think those are the three areas that I would focus on the most.
Got you. Making content. So as far as the content itself, I've heard all different types of splits as far as 40/60, 50/50, 80/20. What type of content is there, would you say, should far see be more educational? Should it be more about whatever things that I like, a mix of the two? Is there a line as far as on where if I'm just starting out, where I should kind of start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if there is an even split that I would say,
Mhm.
but I would add that for the business content that you're putting out, I would say just approach it with value rather than just trying to advertise, if you will. Like I
Mhm.
think a lot of people want to post just to stay top of mind and let people know that they're in the business. And yeah, that could be effective for some people, but I think if you're adding value and teaching someone something, it creates a lot of trust between you and that person. And if you're continually doing that and building and building and building on trust, when that person needs you, you're going to be the one that's top of mind. So it's not necessarily, hey, I posted this thing and I got 3 leads from it. It's,
Mhm.
hey, I posted 14 videos in the last year and someone remembered it and came to me to ask a question about buying their first home. Like there's a lot of value in that because you've built that trust with someone that you might have never met before. I would say it's less about definitely sprinkle in personal content because I think that's really important to let people know
Mhm.
what you're interested in, what your values are. If you're super family oriented, finding commonalities between you and your audience and what your interests are. But I think from a business content standpoint, just approach it with value rather than just posting for the sake of posting. Like there's not a ton of intentionality behind that. So I would say more so focus on how much value you're creating with the business content that you're posting.
Got you. Got you. And to kind of touch on that, you mentioned, there's different ways to kind of go about your social media or your marketing. You could either go the route of either building your personal brand, or you could just go the route of just kind of bringing in leads. So what would you say, is there a right balance between the two? And then to kind of top on top of that, how can you do this without feeling too salesy? How can, instead of me just trying to sell you, how can you do it organically?
Yeah, let me think about how I want to say this. So I think the lead generation via social media is it's like a very nebulous topic. I think when the webinar concept, like if you're doing webinars, that's a great way to bring someone in to
Mhm.
your environment and build a lot of trust with them because you're adding something of value. So I would consider that lead gen, but I think having the brand presence beforehand makes that a lot easier. Because again, if they've never heard your name or never seen you before and you just reach out and invite them to this event, it's very unlikely that they're going to show up. But
That's
if they've
true.
been following you for 2 years, you've built a lot of trust, they have a lot of commonalities and they relate to you, and then you invite them to something, that lead generation becomes a lot easier if you've already established that foundation. So I think they kind of play off of each other. And I think having a brand presence can lead to lead generation if you're doing it in the right way.
I like that. I like that. So just finding a way to naturally blend the two from lead gen and then building up your brand. So you worked with a ton of mortgage professionals. I think yesterday you posted the podcast with Ryan Grant. Yeah,
Yes.
that was a
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
What's one common trait that you see in those that are just crushing it right now?
They're staying consistent with something. And it doesn't have to be this, like, you don't have to find the right thing. I think
Mhm.
that's a common theme in this industry is people get shiny object syndrome and they want to just be doing the cool new thing when it comes to marketing. I think going back to basics and just choosing one thing that's going to be your thing, whether that's social media or you're hosting webinars or whatever that looks like for you, stick to one thing and be really consistent with it. And then you'll become known for that. And that is what generates results more than, again, finding like the smartest thing. It's not about being the most creative or the most intellectual. It's just about sticking to something, which I don't see a lot of people doing in general.
100%. I mean, success leaves clues. And, when you see a lot of the people that have been crushing it, even when things were slow, you see that they have patterns. They just don't market or they just don't post when times are slow. They post every day or they're doing something every day, having webinars consistently.
Right.
And, it's being able to, one, be consistent, and then two, being able to adapt as the market moves. Because, as you know, it's never the same in in this industry. So you got to be able to, one, be consistent, and then two, be adaptable through all the up and down times.
100%.
When did you jump into the industry?
Oh gosh, I jumped in March 2020, right before everything kind of hit the fan.
Uh-huh.
I started at AIM, a broker association in
Hmm.
Philadelphia, and the day that I started was the day before Philly shut down because of COVID. And then we were working from home for I think like 3 months. So I started back then in kind of the marketing realm and now have been like slowly progressing towards being more of a mortgage advisor on the, I don't want to say sales side of things because it sounds bad,
Yeah.
but on the advising side of things, if you will. So it's crazy to think that it's been 5 years already, but it's definitely been fun. It's a very dynamic industry. And it's never a dull moment for sure.
Yes, that's true. That's true. If you could go back to when you first got into the business and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say just taking chances. And I think that this is something that I think that I have done well. And I've never, even though I'm new in an industry or new at a company, I think I always kind of put myself out there and be a little bold. I'm very social, so I like to create connections. And I think that's been one thing that I found so much value in is just knowing a lot of people and knowing the right people. So I would say, number one, stick to your values and always do what you feel aligns with yourself for myself. And then two, just never stop connecting and learning from other people because there's so much value in learning what others are doing, what's working for them, and just knowing really good people in this industry has bringing me a ton of blessings.
That's a good perspective, and I know when people look at this, they're going to be happy because they're going to keep learning from you as well. So this was great.
Sorry.
Where can people find you?
Instagram is probably my most consistent at the real Val Miller. So, it's not a fake one on Facebook and
Got to
LinkedIn
keep
as
the real in
well.
there.
Just Val Miller on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Got you, got you. Well, this was amazing. I took something away. I'm gonna go back and read this or listen to this and take my notes. So this was amazing. I appreciate having you.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. This was fun.
Of course, of course. Thank you.